Welcome to this Fane online event. I'm Yasmin Evans and I am joined by just an icon, a curator of culture, a multi-talented rapper, artist, double platinum, a battle rapper, cypher dominator, a devoted mother, a partner, sister, friend, and author of the autobiography, Who's That Girl? It's Eve!
Thank you. That was really nice. I'm adding all that to my Instagram.
Yeah. I actually forgot a West Philly South Street icon.
Oh, yeah. It's true. It's true. Thank you.
This is an exciting time, isn't it?
It's so exciting. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But I am excited. I'm very nervous, but in a good way. It's those good nerves. I'm like excited for people to read this book. Definitely. Yeah.
Well, it's out now. Here it is in all its glory. You look stunning.
Thank you.
Gorgeous.
Shout out to Jonathan and the glam squad. They definitely, I love this look. Yeah.
I mean, they've got a wonderful canvas to work with.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, one thing about you that we have met before.
Yes.
We've connected before.
Yeah.
And I've also been a fan of you for such a long time.
Thank you.
And I've watched you grow and explode, and I've enjoyed your talent and your creativity.
Thank you.
You have always been so honest.
I've tried to be. I just don't know how not to be. But I think, it's the reason why I think I put myself through so many things. And as people will read in the book, I've had issues with alcohol and things like that. And I think it's the reason why I did have issues with alcohol, because I was trying to numb myself from things that were going on in the business, and also trying to tame down some of my honesty and things that I was seeing, things that I was feeling. But I've tried to, I don't know how not to be honest.
It's you.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
No, it's me. It just is. Yeah.
And those who haven't read it and who are going to read it are going to see that you're not here to be honest and slander people. No. You've never done that. No. You've always, when approached, been very honest with, who you might be talking about. I mean, this book, the way that you have navigated is so chic.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so respectful.
Yes. For me, it was important that anyone who is named in the book, that everything came back around to what I felt in that moment, learn from that situation, with myself. Because for me, this book, yes, I'm in the industry. Yes, I have fame. I've been in the business for a long time, but the book is not about that. The book, and I hope this is what people get from it. The book is about a woman on a journey of life, trying to figure herself out. Someone who believes in herself, that is determined, that had tons of bumps along the way, tons of mountains I needed to climb, and tons of things that I needed to be honest with myself about. I feel like I hope that's what people get from this book, along with some stories, some other stories. It is juicy, just not salacious.
It's fun.
It's fun. I hope that was another thing. I also wanted people to read this book and be like, oh, I feel like she's talking to me a little bit. And also, one thing a friend of mine said when I told them I was writing this book, she was like, oh, I hope I feel your personality. And I was like, what does that mean? She was like, well, I know you a certain way. She was like, but I feel like a lot of people don't know you that way unless we connected, unless I connect with someone. And it is how I am. I'm goofy and silly. And that was important for me to get across in the book as well. My real true personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were always referred to throughout the book, the Philly in me.
Yes.
And because I don't know what the Philly in anyone is but I'm starting to get a picture.
Yes.
So I hope that.
Yeah, I hope so too. I'm Philly all the way through. It is, child. You could take her out, honey, but
exactly that.
You know what I mean? I do hope people just enjoy the journey, because it has been, and it is, and it's been a beautiful, sometimes painful, sometimes stressful journey, but I feel very lucky and I feel very blessed. Yeah.
Well, with that in mind, I want to just talk about something that when reading the book, and this I think the second chapter, it starts with real heavy picture of pain.
Yeah.
there are no other words to describe it. You explained that you were going through a breakdown, and that happens, at different parts of your life through this book.
Yeah.
And it's at the beginning of 2000, where if anyone was along for the ride, which was an amazing journey as a spectator, as a fan, I remember, I brought this up to you before, I remember watching, this is my, no bias, this is my favorite episode of the MTV Diary of.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So this is March 2000. I remember all these things. So we could see you doing this documentary type program, living your best life, going out on tour, you're in hotels, you had your little Yorkie with you, your little dog. You were surrounded by your friends and your team. And I read that exact moment in the book. And this is the behind the scenes of what we saw. And it was completely different.
Completely.
Because what you were going through was pain.
Complete pain. What we, thank God now that we can use these words, depression, because you couldn't talk like that back then.
Right.
What I now realize was I must have been depressed. I was drinking too much, but I was also trying to keep up with my friends because I was like, I didn't change. I haven't changed. I'm still from Philly. Like, I'm bringing all my friends. Everybody's not meant to be on your journey. So, that it was a hard lesson. It was a hard lesson to learn. I was it was my first tour. You know what I mean? Like, it was like me just trying to keep up. And there's no playbook for how to be famous and I thought it was just fun. That's all. That's what I signed up for. I signed up for the fun. And I think trying to navigate who am I now as an artist? What does that mean? Not just to the people around me, but what does it mean to myself? I've never been here before. I was exhausted. I was exhausted, but I never ever had that feeling before, So there were just so many things to navigate at that time that I became so sad. Mm-hmm. It's a weird thing to say, like, because sadness, we've all been sad, but it was such a deep sadness. That I actually was like, I don't need to be famous. If this is what it is, I don't want to be this. I just want to be happy and sane.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was a big old time. It was a lot of learned lessons.
Yeah. Yeah. How was it writing that? Going back to those feelings?
I will say the beginning process of writing this book, my co-writer, shout out to Kathy Ayandoli, who's amazing. I think we had our first or second session and she called me and was like, hey girl. So she was like, look, I don't want to take you back to trauma, really, but you need to be able to emote. You need to be able to go back to certain places and allow people to come along on that ride with you. And that actually cracked something in me because I'm great, I feel like, in interviews because I've been doing it for so many years that I can quickly kind of put up a wall and kind of do the things that I need to do to get the interview across. But with that comes no emotion most of the time.
Right.
So I had to think about that. And I'm glad she said that to me because I think if she hadn't, it would be a different kind of book. Yes, the stories would still be there, but I don't think you wouldn't feel what I really did feel in those moments. So shout out to her.
There is a lot of that feeling that comes through throughout it. And I don't want to spoil anything because I want people to actually read it.
Yes.
And I feel like the words that we could say right here would not kind of do that emotion.
I agree.
Justice.
Yeah, I agree. And we tried to write it in a way where the chapters kind of grow with me in those times as well, which I have to give her all credit for that because she was like, well, no, I just feel like, that helps the journey. And I was like, actually, yes, it really, really does. Even for me, when I reread the book and reread chapters over and over, even doing the Audible, everything was just like, oh my God. Like, I've gone back on this journey a few times. So I can't wait for y'all to read it.
I'm excited for people to see it because if they're a fan of you the way that I am, I'm like, this is just know it's an enjoyable book.
Yay, thank you.
What is it that when you first sort of thought about sharing more of your story, with the world.
Yeah.
No pressure there.
Yeah, I know.
So the first choice, the first decision, the first step.
You know, I'd been asked a few years before, I'd been asked by another company, just like, hey, would you want to write a book? And I wasn't ready for a few different reasons. While, like you, taking it back to what you said before, while I'm always honest, I don't know, being vulnerable is very new to me.
Okay.
So I said no then because I just wasn't ready to be vulnerable. With this situation, Kathy and I had just hit it off. We met, we met a few times, but then we started talking about a book and she was like, I think it's time. And I was like, you know what? I think it is. And I felt comfortable doing it with Kathy as well. She is just such an amazing person, amazing author in her own right, does her own incredible books. She also teaches like music business at NYU. She knows the business. And we just hit it off. And I think a lot as well that has to do with me feeling like, okay, it was time as my son. It's so cliche to say, but I do feel whole. I do. Yeah. I feel like that little part of me was just, I needed him to like be here for me to feel like, it's weird how this little person can give you so much strength.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was a big part of it.
And he was something that your heart and soul and body wanted so much for a really long time.
Yeah, forever. Yeah. I went from knowing I wanted a kid to kind of being like, no, maybe it's not meant for me because I have 4 also beautiful bonus kids that are amazing. And I kind of resigned myself to that for a while. And then it kind of came back again where I was just like, no, I really, really would love to experience motherhood. And, you know, I'd had a situation before where I was pregnant and unfortunately that didn't come to fruition, but which you will read in the book. So even that journey was hard getting over that hump. But yeah.
A lot of healing.
So much healing. I'm like, Lord, child.
It's never over.
It's never.
The healing is never over.
You know what I figured out about healing is the more you think you're done, something always pops up. Something always pops up. But you know what? I used to be like, oh, I wish I could just be oblivious, but I don't ever want to be oblivious. No. I want to fully be engaged and feel all things. And I feel grateful that I'm not oblivious.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work.
You seem to have now just, you know, you talk about letting some people go from the journey, those different transitions, but now, you know, you speak about your bonus children, your children, you speak about your partner, your husband.
Yeah, it made me, I gotta say, I mean, I always knew I loved him. We've been together for 14 years now. But when I read his chapter, I was like, oh my God. I was like, it reminded me why.
Okay.
It reminded me why. It reminded me, and not that I forgot, but you know, life gets in the way. Relationships are what they are. 2 separate people doing 2 separate things in life, and you come together, and yes, you love each other, and yes, you build a life, but sometimes you just forget as to the why. Right. And it really was like, oh my God, I got so actually emotional reading that chapter about him, which he still hasn't read yet.
Has he not?
No, he hasn't read it yet. I was like, you're going to be really happy. I'm like,
you look good. You're going to slack me off.
No, I'm like, you look really good in this chapter. So yeah, he hasn't even read it yet. I'm actually nervous.
Oh yeah.
I mean, nervous and I don't know. Listen, he looks great in the chapter. He is great. Yes. But I am nervous for him to read it. I can't wait to hear what he thinks about it.
I mean, no one ever really, you don't want to feel comfortable someone's reading your diary.
Exactly.
It's like he's just picked up your diary.
That's perfect. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah.
But I agree. If he's watching today, he is going to love it.
Yeah. Oh God, his head's going to swell.
I love that throughout the years you've shared little gems about your relationship and finding your person and marriage, but still having this to yourself because it's your private life. Yeah. At the end of the day. Yeah. How hard was it balancing that when reading the book? Because like you say, you know, you want to be so honest.
Yeah. That was interesting. That was interesting because I wanted to, like you said, be honest, but it is important for me to have privacy. Yeah. It is important for me to keep certain things to myself. So I think what we decided to do was kind of take things that I maybe have spoken about possibly before. Like when I was on the talk show in the States, I did mention certain things and just kind of dive a bit deeper into those subjects. Yeah. And then the subjects that are in there that people haven't heard about before, possibly, those were things that I just felt important to share that were big lessons that I learned on my journey, in this journey. So yeah, I have to say there were definite times where I was like, I don't know if they need to read this. I don't think we need to be sharing this information. Why are they so nosy? I don't even know who people are. But I was like, you know what? No, put it out there because it's part of my healing. But it's also just it's part of my story. It's part of my story. Yeah. You know, I talk about Nicki Minaj in the book. And not in a way that most people would think I would. It's not even about music. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's not even about music. And that was something I questioned because I was like, oh, people are gonna be like, oh my God, like, what is she scared of her? No. And to be honest, it all comes back around to me and all the things all my insecurities. So I am interested for people to read that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
You're great at holding your hands up and say, like, are you good at saying sorry?
Yeah. Because I think it's important. It is one of my biggest pet peeves when people can't. Yes. So I try to do it and it's important.
That is reading that, and I've read a few books before. Yeah. That's not a real, a popular characteristic of an autobiography.
No.
I think you can expect some trauma, and you can expect heartbreak and sadness and happiness, lots of that. But for someone to go, basically, I fucked up there.
Yeah. No, but we have to. It's part of everything. Like, otherwise you're just carrying shit around, even if it's embarrassing. Just, I did it. Yeah, this is what I went through. Like, we're all freaking human. And we all feel the same shit. Yeah. I don't know if I could say shit, but we all feel the same stuff.
Yes.
We all feel the same things. So, you know, I think sometimes reading that in a book about someone maybe you know, helps you in a certain way. I know 100%. It helps me when I read things like that. So, yeah.
I was reading it like, oh, okay. We can do this. We can say that when we're in the wrong.
Yeah, why not?
And when you're in the spotlight and, you know, and talking about different relationships with different artists, and you say, do you know what? Yeah. That was a bad decision that I made.
Yeah.
Because I think, was there like any second guessing of, like, you know, people that you've worked with before, your friends that that are now acquaintances, maybe people back in West Philly, because you have to think about that as well. Like, are they going to read it? Like, no, this is not the Eve that I know. Like, and you're like, well, you knew her then.
But that's the thing. I think that, especially being in this business, coming out in the era that I came out, but I think that's with everyone, not even the era I came out. I think all of us have the musicians and moments that we go back to in our lives that take us back to a certain place. It's like when you want to see your artist, when you want to see an artist at a concert, of course you want to sing the song the way you sing it in your shower, in your bathroom, the way that they play it, but they might want to change it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. And as a fan, sometimes it's hard to see an artist in that way, but we're human and we have to grow. And I do think there might be some people who say, oh, wow, that's not what I recognize. But I do hope that they're like, oh, but you know what? That was 20 years ago. That was 15 years ago. That was 25 years ago. Speaking of, you know, this book falls on the 25th anniversary of my first album. Mm-hmm. And that's another reason why I wanted this book to come out, because I'm like, man, it's been again, a journey. Yeah. You know, my whole life is completely different. I'm a girl from Philly who lives in London now. You know what I mean?
Not the most popular.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on, like, things have changed. But I think also a lot of times too, being in hip hop, being a female rapper, even allowing myself to change and not being in that box. And this book has helped me in that way, writing through certain things and seeing things in a certain light that I maybe even held on to myself, that I had not preconceived notions. I had, I don't know what the word is. You know, when you hold on to versions.
Sure.
I was holding on to versions of people that I wrote about in certain things. And I will tell you, the universe, Fane, I think I just finished the audiobook and I'd run into someone who I mentioned in the book. Not in a bad, they're not in a bad light, but I held this resentment, I think, because they were, they're a person who was in the beginning of my career.
Right.
And I ran into them in the most random of places, and it was great. Amazing. And it was all my shit. Again, it was like all this stuff that I was holding on to. It was great. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm seeing. And I was just like, whoa. And it completely also let me know I was over it. Also. Right. You know, and it's nice when you get to that place where you're like, oh, I'm done with this. That's fine. I've gotten over that. So, yeah.
It's a real poignant moment, isn't it, when you see someone from the past, you know, a little skeleton comes out of the closet. Yes. Because you instantly fall back into the person you were.
Yep.
So that's a real, it's like a few seconds of, do you decide to go this way or this way?
So, it's so funny. And like, because we have the choice, right? We 100%. Have the choice. So it is funny when you have that, it's a micro moment. It's a micro moment and you're like, but yeah, it was totally fine. And I was like, okay, I'm okay. I can do this.
Shedding is quite like a common theme throughout the book.
Scorpios.
We're both Scorpios.
We're both Scorpios.
We know this. We will shed whenever needs to be. But we have seen you have always been open about that.
Yeah.
Even in terms of your artist name.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, now we're gonna leave those 2 words.
Yep.
And now, so you've always been very akin to that.
Yeah, thank you. I think I do feel lucky I'm a Scorpio.
That's okay. It's also a Scorpio thing to be like, I am so great.
It's true.
We love all signs.
We love
just
all
this one
signs,
is
but
pretty cool.
Are. Oh my God, that's so funny because it's true. No, it's true. It's so true. But I do feel
obviously we've got no one else to disagree right now.
Oh my God, that is so funny, but it's true. But I think you can't, first of all, we are, I won't say that's the wrong word, but I feel like we're so beholden to our emotions.
Oh yeah.
And we can't help, it's like we're led by that. So we can't help it.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of made an album about it.
I did make an album about it. I did. I truly am like, I'm a true Scorpion.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay.
It's good.
Because we're seeing that emotion come out.
Yeah.
If you didn't have that characteristic, we wouldn't have this book.
It's true. That's very true. That's very true.
Honestly, I read it in awe. I'm in awe of you anyway, to just, you know, we sit here and we talk about the things that you've done. Do you ever sit at home sometimes? Like right now, Wild has no idea.
No, at all. It's like so funny.
Me, like
he does understand. Like he'll say, he came to his first concert a few weeks ago, like sometime in the summer, and it was amazing to have him there and just look into what is going on. And now he'll say, "Oh, mommy sings and dances," or he'll say, if I say I'm going to work, because he'll be like, "Mama, where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going to work." "Are you going to sing? Are you going to dance?" I'm like, oh my God. So but you know, he doesn't know, and he has zero clue. And I'm sure he'll just be like, by the time he grows up, I'll be like, what?
I'm sorry, but you were like, here's the book.
Here's the book. Yes, read
Take
the book.
Your time.
Yes. No, I you know, another thing that happened at the end of this book was me actually saying I was proud of myself. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'd ever really said that. Not that I've not been.
Yeah.
But I've never had a chance to just sit and reflect. And when do we, no one really can. We don't have time. We're just busy. And I think, you know, I kind of, especially when I started in the business, it was the next thing to the next thing. You just had to hurry up. And when you're hot, you got to keep it moving. And I just don't think I've ever sat back and had that time. And I was just like, I am actually proud of myself. Yeah, it's a nice feeling. It is a nice feeling.
Yeah, of course. You know, digging into the archives and seeing, going back to these moments. You know, you talk about the relationship with your mother and things that she had missed through sort of your education, but then she still got to receive those treasured moments through your music career.
For me. Yeah, it was huge for me. Like, to me, you know, my Grammy is my graduation, and she was there to see that, and that is huge for me because I was just bad. I wasn't bad, but I was bad.
Well, it made you the person you are.
100%. Yeah.
And you had her by your side.
Yeah. My mom is always, she's my rock. She is my rock. Always has been. Biggest supporter. I'm very thankful. Grateful for that lady.
Has she read the book yet?
She hasn't. My mom's so funny. So she has had the manuscript.
Okay.
She's had but she was like, I want to wait for it to come in the mail. And I'm like, Mom, you don't even have to buy it. And she's like, no, I have to buy it. And I'm like, I love my mom so much. She wants the whole experience. She hasn't read. There's a chapter in there about her sister, my aunt Karen, who I love, who she doesn't know about that. Okay. So I'm sure we'll have a discussion. All part of
healing.
It's all part of healing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure there's a few chapters that you're worried about certain people reading.
Yes.
But
I said to one of my friends who's named in there, I told her that she was like, oh, I didn't think I was in the book because you didn't tell me. Like, I thought I had to approve. And I was like, well, but
she's like, where's my check?
No, she's like, I thought I had to approve. But I was like, listen, it's nothing bad. She's my bestie. I love Erin. She's like my bestie. So I was like, it's nothing bad.
What chapter sticks out for you? What did you kind of like have the most fun writing?
I love the beginning. Mm-hmm. I loved kind of the explanation of where the projects I'm from. Yeah. Because for me, that it made me understand kind of a lot of the things that went on in my life, not being in a steady foundation, underground, literally. But then also, you know, writing about my son and his name and why I named him Wild and the reasoning behind that. It makes me emotional every time I think about it because I'm like, I just want him to be a free, happy kid. And not that I wasn't, you know, my mom did the best she could and everybody did the best they could. What else? I mean, you know, I do love, a little conceited, but I do love talking about some of the accolades of like explaining certain things because I think there will be people who read this who obviously don't know the real ins and outs of the business and music. And I think that kind of stuff is kind of important to share, especially being a woman, a female rapper in this business. So yeah, there's some really cool parts to this book that are some that I think are factually educational to a certain extent. Yeah.
I liked finding out things that I didn't know.
Yeah.
About the situations that I already knew about.
Yes.
Right? Because you're not, I mean, you could have wrote about a lot of things that we kind of already knew and we could probably gather if we put the pieces together. But that was surprising for me to be like, oh, okay, that's only briefly mentioned. Cool, because I already know it. Yeah. But this part I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know, but your journey with Ruff Ryders and the relationships there. And that was just really cool for me to read.
Yeah, I hope it will be for people too. I think, you know, within that, my life within Ruff Ryders and all the guys, I had a great time.
You look like you was having a great time as well.
I had a great time. I mean, I couldn't do much. Nobody wanted to date me, but because I was so protected. But, you know, they were my brothers. They really were. And I will forever be thankful and lucky that that's where I ended up with my music. Because I was very protected. They protected me. Yeah. So I feel very thankful about that.
It comes across in a safe space as well.
Completely.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. And especially in that time in music. You know what I mean? Like there were a lot of other females rappers that were being told how to dress, what to do, how to whatever, and they really kind of let me just be me.
Yeah. And this is you.
This is me.
We finally know who the girl is.
This is who I am. It's crazy.
I have a final question.
Yes.
Just because I think, thank you so much for being so honest in this book, and specifically the chapter that I mentioned, because I think it will really, really help people.
Yeah.
But the you now, what would you say? I'm getting emotional thinking about it. The you now, what would you say to the Eve in that moment, in that hotel room with your manager, who just felt like the world was imploding in her?
Honestly, now you make me emotional. That it's all okay, and that you are held. Because I think we forget that sometimes. We're not doing this journey by ourselves. It's gonna be so much better than you could even imagine. It's gonna be so much better, and you're gonna be okay. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing, the book, honestly. Thank you for being here and being...
Thank you for being here. Thank you.
You didn't need to ask me twice at all.
Get the book. No.
Right now.